Well, we are talking NBA basketball this morning on Upper Left Sports, and it's been over a decade now since our beloved Seattle Sonics were stolen from the Great Pacific Northwest by Clay Bennett and taken down to Oklahoma City. And
Never forget.
ever since then, Sonics fans have obviously been trying to get our Sonics back. And it came close back in 2012, 2013 with the Sacramento Kings until they got purchased by another ownership group. But we have some news that came out the last couple days from Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, that this isn't just a headline-worthy story. This is real. There's actually some real grip to this that could make this a reality. This is not a pipe dream. Let's dive into what was said. And here's the thing. Since Adam Silver's been the NBA commissioner, and I think Adam Silver's the best commissioner in American sports.
Yeah.
The bar's not set very high for that.
Unfortunately not.
Between the other commissioners, the NHL commissioner is fine, but let's consider him more of a Canadian commissioner than American. But Silver's been asked every single year about expansion. And pre-pandemic, the answer has always been that, it's not something we're really considering at this time.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that COVID-19 and this world pandemic happened has changed a lot of things. The NBA revenues are down, and they need to find ways economically to help the league. And adding an additional one or two franchises would really be a big part of that.
Yeah, that's an easy way to inject money into this league. Adam Silver talked about it. Media has talked about it last couple of days. If an expansion team happens, they don't just give you that. There is, of course, a entry fee with that. And it's going to cost just about what buying a different franchise would cost. So they've talked about it being, about $1 billion. And that money goes to the other teams. So when you're in a position as a league where you're trying to kind of divert money and figure out alternative ways to get income to keep these teams afloat, talking about $1 billion to spread between 30 teams is a very large help. So, this is something we've talked about since the Seattle has left, since the Sonics have left. We've talked about it being a matter of time. This is the 13th largest media market in the United States. And these leagues have always been money driven. Not just the NBA, all professional leagues are money driven. So we knew it was a matter of time. You don't freeze out the 13th largest media market forever. Owners don't do that. They want their money.
Well, in the last year they were in the league, they were 8th in attendance.
Yes, exactly. So, this is and you look at the Seattle Seahawks, the Seattle Sounders. They've shown the city of Seattle will support their major league sports team.
Oh, yeah.
So that is no doubt. This is really good to see. If there's ever been a silver lining of 2020 and the pandemic that we've experienced, hey, maybe it brings back our Sonics for us. Shout out to Save Our Sonics. These guys have been pressing for ever since the Sonics have left us. That group has been out there consistently pushing for Seattle to get a team back. And tell you what, man, that news coming out and then getting to watch Kevin Durant last night in the NBA tip-off, who, of course, was drafted by the Seattle Sonics, really brings back some memories, man, and I cannot wait to see the green and yellow back in Seattle.
So the NBA season is now underway. Adam Silver held his preseason presser. And so here's the quotes that came out of it and why we're talking about this NBA expansion. Here's what Silver had to say talking to ESPN. He said, I think I've always said that it's sort of the manifest destiny of the league that you expand at some point. I'd say that the pandemic's caused us to maybe dust off some of the analyses of economic and competitive impacts of expansion. We've been putting a little bit more time into it than we were pre-pandemic, but certainly not to the point that expansion is on the front burner. And then there were some things that appear to have been said off of camera that after he had the presser and was asked about expansion, it sounds like it was basically said that if expansion happened, Seattle would most likely be first in line. And
definitely,
Adam Silver has been very transparent in his time as NBA commissioner. If COVID never happens and you have full arenas and full revenues, I think we're getting the same answer right now. I think if Adam Silver got asked about it, he'd say, yeah, it's not something we're really considering. But like any business in this world, you have to pivot. And they're having to go back in right now with revenues down the way they are and reevaluate the economic and the competitive impact of this. And I do believe him when he says, like, they're not going to do NBA expansion if teams 31 and 32, which if they add one, they're going to add two teams.
Of course.
They're not going to do that unless they can find a way to make these teams be able to at least compete on the floor with teams like Brooklyn, with teams like the Lakers or Golden State. And so while we know that Seattle can economically support a team and that the NBA would love to have that injection of money, they're going to make sure that they can make the competitive side of it also make sense. I obviously think Seattle is first in line. I think the second city that you see get a team is Las Vegas. After the Raiders have gone there, they've shown that it can work. The things that were concerns about Las Vegas a decade ago with the gambling has changed so much
out the window
in our world.
Yeah.
And they also down in Las Vegas have shown, like with the Las Vegas Golden Knights, they built T-Mobile Arena down there, and they didn't build that arena just for NHL hockey. Mm-hmm. They built it to get an NBA team, and so I'd be shocked if it doesn't go Seattle and Las Vegas. You said it's just a matter of time. COVID, I think, has pushed up that timeline.
Yep.
Howard Schultz, who is the owner of Starbucks, was the owner of the Sonics, sold the Sonics to Clay Bennett, who was a Oklahoma City businessman, still is. But we knew as soon as Bennett bought the team that he would be looking for a way to get the Sonics to Oklahoma City, and he did. He stole the Sonics from Seattle. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing, is if he had one excuse, one thing he could pull out of his pocket, and if we had him on the show right now, he'd say, well, they wouldn't give me an arena. You can give your input on all of that. That being said, Key Arena was in shambles at the time.
Agreed.
If the Sonics got the Kings back in 2013, they wouldn't have gotten them without having to build a new arena or upgrade Key Arena. Well, guess what? That's out the door. Mm-hmm. With the Seattle Kraken, with Climate Pledge Arena ready for NHL hockey next season, by the time that this comes to fruition, they now have an NBA-ready arena. And so here's the thing, Adam Silver, NBA, the excuses are gone. We know Seattle will support a team. You don't have to come up with a new name. We've got the name, we've got the branding, and we've got the arena. And so I think that the time is right now. You said maybe the silver lining of COVID-19. It's going to be really exciting because we're going to watch the puck drop for Kraken hockey next year. And to know that we might be just a couple years away from getting our Sonics back, times are looking really good for the future of Upper Left Sports.
It really is, man. I've said it off air. You and I have talked about it, but ever since it came out that we were getting a hockey team, an NHL team, and they were starting Climate Pledge Arena, I said right away, I think the NBA is sooner rather than later, because we knew obviously the hang-up was the arena. And to go back to Clay Bennett a little bit, his one card he pulls out is, well, they wouldn't give me an arena. Let's be fair on that. If you're watching right now and you haven't seen it, do yourselves a favor. Go on YouTube, watch Sonicsgate. You can learn a lot about what happened. There was a lot behind the scenes, but the burden that Clay Bennett was putting on Seattle taxpayers to give him an arena was no small burden. And he knew the outcome of what he was asking. He knew that they would say no, and that would give him his out. Yep. So, props to Seattle for still finding a way to get an arena done, even without an NBA team. I think everybody there knew that if they got an arena up, the NBA will come. You build it, they will come. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. So, absolutely love to see it, man. It has been way too long. But you know what? I really think we're talking now within 3 to 5 years that we see the green and yellow back in Seattle.
Yeah, maybe a progression because of COVID-19. Mm-hmm. Had this never happened, we might be talking about, the Sonics could come back in the next decade. We may have pushed that entire timeline up 5 years as the NBA has to find a way to inject some money back into the league. And it may just come at the expense of seeing our beloved Seattle Supersonics back in the Emerald City.